Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thanks, Chris. Well, I've only 5 minutes to compress something which I usually do in like 2 hours. Okay, so bear with me. I'm first, to just let you all know, I've come from the newsroom. I spent 15 years in a news channel, so that's where my heart is. But lately, of course, I've been talking to a lot of publishers and observing the media industry ecosystem around us, and increasingly, I think the whole question of business sustainability comes into question. So we've got people here from established news organizations and newspaper companies. We've also got lots of startups in the room. So I basically was a TV journalist, 15 years in Channel News Asia, and then I went to teach at the Nanyang Technological University for 7 years. So I've got quite a lot of colleagues here from either news or TV. I now work at WAN-IFRA, the World Association of Newspapers and News Publishers. We have 3,000 members around the world, and we represent about 18,000 news publications altogether, digital and print. So WAN-IFRA, of course, here in the APAC region, we represent the interests of our members in the region. We do a global World Press Trends survey every year. It's available on the website. I think this is actually, these are numbers that are produced, they are charged for actually. So if you look at the statistics, despite what our friend from Japan says, actually 51% of newspapers' overall revenue still comes from circulation sales, although that number, of course, to be expected, is falling. Digital is going up. But you see the two blue sections here, that's still print, and that's about still 90% of revenues. Digital is slowly growing. Encouraging signs, okay, and you see the next set of numbers, but it is, so you see digital going up by 27%, print is falling by 28%, but there's a difference because the base for digital is a lot smaller. It's about $11 billion compared to print, which is about 80 over million, okay? So if you look at the whole sort of ad spend ecosystem, and this is from World Press Trends again, newspaper print is just 9.5%. The digital spend actually is taken up by a huge, of course, tech giants. These numbers, of course, they may not be the latest and most up to date, but it's around 60 over percent or so to about 70%. That's just the US ad market. So you can see publishers getting very worried because this is kind of their lunch. However, it's really not just the tech giants, but it's actually the consumers. You and I, we have changed our consumption habits. So we're no longer, picking up a newspaper in the morning. I still do, but not everyone does. The other thing is the costs, right? Where do the costs go in the digital ad system? By the time you take away all the costs from the various technology providers, the publisher is only left with about almost 30 cents to the dollar. Okay, so on top of that, the consumer is not very aware that the media are facing so much financial difficulty. But of course, media literacy is important. So this is from the Reuters Institute. And Schibsted Norway has shown that actually the younger generation, that's you, the millennials, are actually willing to pay. So that's a good sign. You've got people who pay for Spotify, for Netflix. Why won't they pay for news? They used to pay for newspapers. Why not digital news, right? So if you look at the Reuters numbers, you'll see that out of 10 top countries where readers for online news paid for their news, 4 countries in APAC are doing so. And I've borrowed some slides here from our friends from the International Consortium of Journalists, and they did a study with 2,000 of the responses in 130 countries. Content, developing new revenue streams, and new formats. These are the priorities. So the other thing, next to advertising, what's the other, big thing, right? Sponsored content. A lot of news organizations are also going into this. So consider what are the implications of having sponsored content. Okay, so these are some quotes from various chiefs in the news industry. Okay, integrated world. They're now becoming more and more just media companies, or integrated marketing companies rather than newspaper companies. We're doing a conference in Singapore in May, so if you're around again, please come. It's called Publish Asia, and we're going to be having about 300 news organizations in the room discussing these trends again. Thank you very much.